Hey, welcome to our first ever interview on Agents of Speech. So today's interviewee is Jordan. He is a person with Apraxia of Speech. He's very brave. He has a huge following on social media, and I'll link all the handles of his Facebook, Instagram, YouTube down below in the description box. And just before we dive into the interview, I just want to say I am very, very sorry. And that's because my mic wasn't working and the internet was unstable because I'm in Asia and he's in USA and it's too far. How we can get the most of this interview is not to watch the whole thing. Okay, that is gonna be very long. So what you can do is to go down in the description box and see the timestamps about what questions I asked and then listen in then. Okay, it will be a little choppy, but I believe that you'll be able to understand most of what we were talking about. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in.
Yep. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for joining me actually to this interview. It means a lot to me because I have quite a handful of children, students who have
Mhm.
apraxia of speech. That's why I don't know why. After I moved countries, and this is a whole separate story, right? I moved countries to Indonesia, and then I came here,
Mhm.
and it turns out there's a lot of children who have apraxia of speech, and some of my students came across your page, especially the parents, and they showed me, hey, this guy called Jordan, he's really cool, and so I reached out to you, and you were very nice and friendly.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I really
Thank
liked your
you.
videos. Yeah, no words. And
Thank you. That's kind.
if you're seeing this the first time, if you're seeing Jordan the first time, you can find him at Jordan Christian on YouTube. I'll link in the description box. On
Thank
Facebook, he's quite huge. He's called Fighting for My Voice, My Life with Apraxia. He's got a huge following there. And on IG, on Instagram, he's called Apraxia. Jord Apraxia. Okay,
I know. I try to like morph those two names. Yeah.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. All right.
Thank
So,
you.
so the first question I want to ask you, right, is
Mm.
if you were just like a very casual question. So I see that you like coffee a lot, right? And so do
Oh
I.
yeah. I love coffee.
Love. So if you were to choose one drink, just to you could only order one drink in your entire life from now on, like which one would it be?
um. Oh, that's hard. Um. Probably cold brew coffee. I love cold brew coffee because it's more of that strong taste than like iced coffee and stuff, more light and I like very strong coffee. So probably cold brew is
Yeah, same.
what a about you.
Oh, that's really cool. I would actually choose cold brew as well. It's
Really, it's
yeah,
so good.
so good, right? It's so smooth. Um,
Yeah.
Recently in Starbucks, they came up with that tap thing that looks like beer, but it's
Mhm.
actually like cold brew. That's pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because as I actually worked there for 6 months or so, or 8 months, and it looked like we were pouring other drinks besides coffee, but it's just coffee.
oh yeah, oh yeah. You were
Yeah.
working in Starbucks for 6 months. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it was 6 months or 8 months. I'm unsure, but once the whole COVID hit, then I decided to take a break from work and stuff. So
Ah, makes sense. Makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Where you're in Connecticut, right? I might be getting this wrong.
It's I'm from North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina. Sorry, sorry, and
Hmm.
not very
It's
familiar with
cool.
geography. How's the COVID
Yeah.
situation there? Not to get to current affairs or anything like that, but how is it over there at your place?
How is it in North Carolina?
Yeah, for COVID.
Um, oh, for the COVID. Sorry, the mic's kind of breaking up. Okay, for the COVID, we're actually in stage two right now. We haven't moved yet. Um, There's a bunch of people here don't want to wear their mask and stuff. It's like a whole thing, and so people aren't very happy, and people aren't willing to comply, which is why we're stuck in stage two. Because we've been in stage two now for months. Like it hasn't eased up. Um, so, and we're actually the third state in the USA that has the strictest restrictions actually. So I was surprised. I'm like, wow, we can't handle this.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. People not wearing masks is a huge issue. But this is
Yeah,
another topic for another topic. Thank you so
I
much for
know.
sharing.
Whole different
Yeah.
topic.
We could talk about this
People
for a
might,
whole hour, right?
yeah, people might get mad. So we probably want to dodge it.
Probably not. All right. Okay. So, what is actually apraxia of speech? Because you know, there's a lot of professionals out there having a few different definitions. Parents come to me, they say, "Hey, what is dypraxia? What's the difference between dyspraxia and apraxia and childhood apraxia of speech? Does it mean that they grow out of it?" Um, that stuff. So
Right.
let's get it out of the way and let's talk about like if you were to define AOS, right? Apraxia of speech in just one sentence that parents will understand
Mm.
most of the time. What would it be?
It would probably be that it's how I like to say it is that your brain has trouble sending your mouth signals to accurately move your tongue, lips, and jaw, which is basically just fancy words to say that really your mouth doesn't really, it's not on the same page as your actual brain, because of course we actually know what we want to say, but it just doesn't always come out, and our mouths can have trouble like trying to move to accurately um, produce our speech right. um, so yeah, because I mean, there's no doubt that we actually know what we want to say, but we just have trouble moving our facial muscles and stuff.
That's cool. That's a really good definition. And one of the after a parent, I tell them about this, right? They would say,
Mm.
"Oh, then do I need talk tools? Does my child need to like bite stuff, and do they need to do whatever?" But I just wanted to like add a little more to what Jordan was saying. A practice speech isn't something that is to do with like muscle weakness, right? It's not something that
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
exactly. There's nothing wrong with the muscles. They're strong enough to talk. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that there's not a good connection between the brain and the mouth muscles, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a sort of incoordination
Right.
to some extent. So I just want to share with you and ask you this question as well.
Mm-hmm.
When I was interning in the hospital, someone got stroke and then they got apraxia. And then he
Mm-hmm.
described to me, he said, like, now talking is like writing with my left hand. I know what to do, but it's just not happening. So do you
Mm-hmm.
agree with this, or what are your thoughts about that?
I would probably say so. It's like, I mean, you just know, what you want to say, but of course your mouth doesn't really comply with with you, because I've actually talked to a few adults that have had acquired apraxia of so speech, which is what you were talking about, and they find it very frus- frus- frustrating because they're used to being able to get their words out, but then once this stroke happens, or it can also happen because of brain injury as well. It's like they have so much frustration and stuff, and it's like, or like, because I've actually, there was a person in my life who actually got acquired apraxia of speech from a stroke. And he said that he just would get so frustrated. He would like bite his like teeth like this because he would get like so mad. So it is, you know, definitely hard. But if you also have a acquired apraxia of speech, I could imagine that being kind of more hard because I'm used to apraxia now. That's all I've ever known. But if I could once get out to say without and troubles, I could imagine.
Mm-hmm. I see. Cool. Sorry, Jordan, it's breaking up a little bit. I think it's my internet. It's breaking up a little bit. I think it's my internet because is it better now?
Oops. Okay. Yes, we're
Yeah,
back
great.
now.
All right. Sorry about that.
Crazy
I'm
that.
living in a third
It's
world
cool.
country. Um, so I shouldn't say that. It would totally just make a lot of people unhappy. Anyways, so we talked about like, you know, you were saying that acquired apraxia. You know someone that when they wanted to say something, they get very frustrated and they would clench their teeth, right?
Mhm.
So this is like something what we call like a secondary behavior, right? Because you're getting anxious and then you're starting to have like jitters, you're starting to have like butterflies, and you're angry, right? Normal people have
Mhm.
it as well when they talk. For me, it's shaking my leg, when I get very, very nervous, especially if I'm like talking on stage, being an MC for my
Mhm.
friend's wedding. First time I was shaking my leg like crazy. So I would imagine that for someone who has apraxia, they would have something similar, right? They would have these problems too. So I was meaning to ask you about, are there any like comorbid issues like other than apraxia? And I think
Yes. So as I disorder as well, which is kind of it comes from the apraxia itself. So it's kind of like they co-occur, if you know what I
yeah, so the
mean.
co-occur.
I used I used to get like really anxious like because of the way I talked and like because of my like voice and stuff. So the anxiety actually came from the apraxia itself, but it's a, you know, different disorder, but they kind of play off of each
Right.
other. So,
Okay. So just now your mic was like, I mean, my internet was kind of shaky. So the disorder was general anxiety disorder, right?
hmm
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So this does happen a lot, more than anyone can imagine. Uh, I have a student right now. When he talks, he would only talk to with the mom next to him, and whenever
Yeah.
even dad would give him like an anxiety attack, and then you ask him,
Oh.
"Why aren't you talking?" And he would say, "Because I'm shy."
hmm
But if you can hear that, you know that he's having an anxiety breakdown, right? He cannot really
Yeah.
express himself, and how he deals with it is actually by like just laughing at me whenever I talk to him. So we'll talk about that later. Hopefully, you can give
Yeah,
some
of
tips.
course.
But first of all, now the question is like, when were you first diagnosed, and like what was the experience like? What kind of instruments did they use? Like what kind of terms did they use? Sorry, it's a whole load of questions.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's I was 5 when I was dia- diagnosed. Um, and they had used the term apraxia of speech, I'm pretty sure, because it wasn't recognized by the American Speech and Language Foundation. So they used a praxia of speech. So I was 5. I'm not sure what type of things that they used to it, because my mom actually didn't find out until months later because the SLP just never told her, and then she found out during a meeting, and she was like, "Praxia, what's that?" And then, yeah, so um, I was 5 though, so
Oh,
I wasn't as ear early as some kids because I know that some kids now get dia diagnosed as early as like 18 months or like 3 years old, but I was more of a late bird. I was like,
well, yeah. To all those parents who are listening right now, um, in all defense of the SLPs, you know, apraxia of speech is the most misunderstood thing out there in terms of making a diagnosis.
it really
So
is.
yeah, it really is, right? So don't worry. That's a label, right? Apraxia of speech is a label. And what I like to say to parents a lot
Mhm,
is that, hey, even if the label is this or that, doesn't matter. The thing about it is this, as long as we
mhm,
know uh, what you can and cannot do, and we just focus on what you cannot and can, and use their advantage, like their strengths, to help them out
mhm,
when you're talking, then that's fine. The therapy doesn't change because of your label of apraxia. Okay, so that's great. So you did it when you were 5,
yeah,
and your mom didn't know about it, and therapists do get anxious
mhm,
as well, making a diagnosis in CAS, healthcare
yeah,
assisted corrective speech, especially because then you have to go through all the tests, especially in America, and write reports just to justify. So there is a reason
yeah,
behind why there are later um, diagnosis. There's a later pattern for diagnosing children with apraxia.
yeah.
Um, that's great. So you were 5. Were you speaking then? And sounds and words. Like, when was the first time that you could speak the word? According to your mom, of course.
Yeah, so I was actually non-verbal until the age of 5. Um, I could make like noises and stuff, but you couldn't comprehend what I was trying to say. And I could be understood by other people when I was age 12. Um, when it wasn't this time, very close friends of mine and my family could, because they were around me so much and they gotten used to my talking and stuff, but other people couldn't pick it up though. So I was 5. Actually, all I just really couldn't really get out what I wanted to say. I did to say words and stuff.
I see. Okay. So you start to talk in words at 5. You were nonverbal before that,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
by the age of 12, people started to understand what you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty consistent with what I know with my experience too.
Awesome.
That's pretty consistent. Okay, so to all the parents out there, there is a lot of there will be progress, there will be improvement. Okay, especially
Yeah.
for apraxia, um, and this is what I've been seeing working as a speech therapist, apraxia is something that takes a long time, and
It
you have
does.
to get at it every day. It's something that you must keep on doing um,
Hmm.
in order for the speech to become better. So that's great. When you got to 12, people started to understand you. But during that time, do you remember that
Yeah.
you actually understand all the language people tell you, right?
Oh
Is
yeah.
that true? Okay, cool.
Hmm.
And then, um, as I was talking about my student, right? Do you have a fear of people not understanding you and you would rather not talk?
As I actually did when I was a kid, but um, it was more so of a valid con con concern though, because other people really couldn't. So I would get really anxious, or I would get very fearful of maybe them not being able to understand me and such. So I actually did have an interpreter in my second, third, and fourth grade year. Um, just because the teachers and stuff really couldn't get what I was trying to say. So there was a really block there.
That is so cool. You had an interpreter with you. That is
Yeah,
excellent. I wish that people would do it more so like this in Asia. It's very
yeah.
awesome. So, did you actually learn ASL, like American Sign Language, to supplement your talking?
Actually, I did not, but I do actually wish that I would have, because I feel like that would have helped me with my frustrations and such, because I would get so frustrated over not being able to talk to others and stuff. So I do actually encourage parents to take ed, ed, advantage of things like that, because there's no actual use in the child, not being able to communicate their needs and their wants.
Yeah,
If we can have something that helps them.
yeah. So that's great. Thanks for saying that. I mean, that's what I advocate as well. It's what we call total communication, right? If you can't use a
Hmm.
certain way of like talking, then we use our
Hmm.
bodies and we like we do
Yeah.
gestures and stuff, right? Um, especially if you're speaking a foreign language and someone doesn't understand you. It's basically what
Hmm.
you were doing because you need an interpreter, right? To other
Yeah, I
people,
did.
it sounded like a foreign language. So
Hmm.
therefore, having some other sorts of sign language will help a lot.
Yeah,
So don't hesitate, and it will not hinder your child's speech progress if you
that's
actually have it.
key.
Yeah, right. People
Yeah.
think that, oh no, if I teach them to use sign, they'll keep on signing and just stop talking.
I know that's what people actually think, and I'm like, that's not true. Please don't think that.
Yeah.
I'm like, but parents worry, so.
Um, well, coming from you, it's more powerful than coming from me because uh,
Thank
it's very difficult being a therapist telling these kind of things because you're not walking the walk, right? You're just saying, "Oh, I know better," but doesn't mean they would trust you. And sometimes I doubt myself too because
yeah,
I don't know enough, right? So that's
yeah.
that's all cool. So all up to 12, you had an interpreter. How was your speech therapy schedule or training like back in the day?
So as I had went to the beach 5 times a week, it's my sessions were 45 minutes long, and I went for seven 7 years, and this was also in the summertime as well, because my mom was like, "You are not getting any breaks. You are going to the beach and such." So I went for 7 years during that time. Back, as I actually attended one time a week for, I think I went for like 2.5 years or around 3 years. So that was one time a week, but back in the day, it was 5 times a week.
Wow, that's a lot of speech therapy. Um,
It was a lot. I
it was
got
a lot.
burnt out.
Yeah, and it shows that it shows how much your mom cares, right? It really, you know,
Hmm.
if a mom would come to me like 5 times a week just for speech, it's a huge sacrifice if you think about it. Because a lot,
It is.
parents, when you go, you would know that you need to budget your time to go to the center, sit in, and then go back. That's like 3 hours gone, basically. So kudos to your mom. She must be very supportive. She must be a great parent.
Yeah, she is.
And yeah, I bet. So
Thank you.
how is she? Does she do a lot of home practice with you as well, like after speech therapy?
Yeah, we would work at home and such, and she would help just try to encourage me to talk as much as she could. She had never wanted me to limit myself because of it. So she would try to encourage me as much as possible to talk. So it was a lot of pep talk and stuff, which helped though.
Uh,
It did.
yeah, that's important. That's very important. It's something that a lot of parents. I don't want to point finger. It's not pointing fingers or anything, right? It's just a difference of
Mm-hmm.
culture. Whereas here, what I see a lot, and especially for me too, because I grew up as an Asian, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of parents would tell their children to, hey, do this exercise, without telling them why, without prep talk, without motivational speeches, without telling you what the importance is to be able to speak nicely. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, children get very discouraged easily, especially if you just fail over and over again,
Yeah.
right? So this is the message to all of you to
Yeah.
learn from Jordan's mom here, who is very, very, very encouraging, and just keep on talking to
Yeah.
your child and encourage them to really speak, even if you stumble, you fail, you fall down and like have tongue ties and
Mhm.
everything, and making knots and stuff. Tongue ties is the wrong word, but your tongue just like
Yeah.
twisted together, right? Um, so
Just
that's
keep
really
on
important.
trying.
Exactly. Just keep on trying. So did anyone ever think that you were selectively mute back in the day? They would think, oh, this kid, would they think so?
It actually never got brought up. Um, it's I it's I would be kind of quiet around other people and such. Like I just like wouldn't talk to other people because I was afraid that they wouldn't understand what I was trying to say and such. So I was kind of selective with who I talked to. And I just was also very anxious that like maybe a person would be like mean or it's also like a bunch of kids thought that I was talking a different language than what I was talking. So that did make me more anxious to talk to others and stuff. So kind of this fear. I just like I want to avoid that as much as I can, but I never got diagnosed with it. But I do think that I did have some type of form of it as a kid.
Okay. Well, it must have been very hard, and that's why I wanted to you know, go deep a little bit more because this is a huge issue, right? It's a huge issue that children with speech disorders, not to even talk about like children on the
Mm-hmm.
spectrum, right? Which it is a
Mm-hmm.
huge um, correlated type of disorder. Like all of my, not all, like 50% of my students who have AOS, apraxia of speech, are on the spectrum as well. So, well, I want to ask for advice about, how to deal with these means, right? Mean children, bullies, and giving you special treatment. Like, how did you do it? How did you like get through that part of your life?
So as I so as I just really didn't know how to, if I'm honest. I tried the best that I could with people that were mean to me and such. I would try to shut them out as much as I could, or I just would act like I just really didn't care. I kind of had this like nonchalant sort of vibe, like I don't care, blah blah blah. Um, but it's actually one of my very close friends during this time. If he saw that I was getting picked on or bullied or anything like that, is he would actually go home and tell his mom, and his mom would actually tell my mom, because I also wasn't able to all of the time tell my mom what had went on at school once I got home and such. So it's actually friends of mine also watched out for me and told their parents, which would tell mine, and then my mom would be like, "Oh, so this happened," and I would be like, "Yeah," but I just wasn't able to really say it. So I just had very good friends during this time, and I tried to just block them out, which kind of actually worked. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great. That's great. Um, Thank you so much for being comfortable with sharing this kind of experiences. Um,
yeah, of course.
yeah, and what you're saying is totally correct. Ignoring bullies, in textbook, if we're talking about textbook execution, is always to ignore,
Mm,
right? And having a nonchalant approach and everything. And I'm really, really happy to hear that you had really good friends to look out for you.
mm,
That's very important as
yeah,
well.
I did.
Yeah. And these things you cannot force on other people. They have to want to help you.
Hmm.
And it comes as a blessing. It comes really as a blessing. And it's good that you have angels in your life, that help you along the way.
Yeah,
Yeah. It really is. They really were, and they still are. Um, and let's take a break from the
yeah.
emotional stuff. I wanted to talk about more about like how
Okay.
you do you do things practically every day. Like I see that you're doing a lot of videos. You're speaking a lot.
Hmm.
How important is it for you to practice or like write things down and try it out before you actually go on camera or speak to someone?
So it's I actually, as far as list goes and stuff, and writing things down. I actually write things down all of the time, and I live my life by actually making lists and stuff. Because honestly, my brain, I come up with all sorts of things, and I feel like I have to write things down to keep up track. Um, but as far as practicing goes and such, as I do kind of practice what I'm going to say and such, before I get on. It is when I first It's when I first began to film, which was a year back. I would keep on trying and trying to film until I felt like I got it right. So I would actually probably film 20 before I actually came up with one that I felt like was good enough to post. Now I probably do it maybe twice, if that, but if I'm honest, it's because I don't want to keep on. I'm like, this is good. We're going to post this now, but I feel like me keeping on with that has actually helped my talking as well. Um, because I actually wasn't talking all of the time prior to my page and stuff, but once I made my page, I began to talk more than I did because I was talking to my camera, I was getting on lives, I was talking to people over the phone. So um, I've started talking way more than I once did. I talk a lot now.
Yeah. Uh, okay. So you would do 20 takes in the beginning. That's similar to me,
I
to be honest. Like,
would. It's a lot.
yeah, because you're not used to being on the camera,
Yeah.
right? I actually had the same
No.
problem, so I would keep on like reshooting myself.
Mm,
So I totally get you. It's not like
yeah,
the Apraxia thing. It's
until
more
you
like,
got it how you want it.
yeah, it's more like you're kind of you want to give your best image of yourself to the internet. Um, that's what I think at least, right?
Yeah, you
But
do.
but yeah, it's important to write things down, right? What I'm
Mm,
hearing is that you're saying that your brain comes up with a lot of different things, and
mm,
by writing it down, it really organizes your thought. So in
it
like
does.
therapy terms, right, we say that it takes away a certain cognitive load, so that you can focus on just talking. Is this something
Hmm.
that you think is true, or is it just it's just a habit of you just writing things down?
It is. Can you repeat that question one more time? Because we might kind of
Okay,
messed
sure.
up. I'm sorry.
Of course, the internet sucks. Um,
It's cool.
so, with writing things down, it's in therapy what we call like decreasing cognitive load, right? Would you agree
Mm.
that you're actually helping yourself to like declutter your mind so that you can focus on talking, or is it like just a habit that you write things down and it helps you out that way?
As I think it's both. I think for me, writing things down and stuff, my brain isn't as packed. Versus if I write things down and such, I'm able to properly process what I feel, or maybe it was bugging me and such, because I'm also very self aware of my talking and my speech and such, and what may be bugging me and stuff. So for me personally, to be able to write down what I'm having troubles with and how I can work with those really helps me just prepare for next time and kind of keep like a mental check when I'm talking and such. And I'm like, oh, okay, so like I'm having trouble with, let's say I'm having trouble with S blend sounds. I need to use my speech strategy, which I use easy on set for that. I need to use easy on set for that next time and breathe out my word. So I'm not having as much trouble with it. And if I am, what do I think is contributing to that? And um, is there any thoughts that I'm also having that aren't helping me? Am I just having a thought of, man, this isn't going to get out if I do have that thought, I like to push that thought aside and just say, I cannot get out this word yet, but I will be able to. I just need to give myself time and patience, because of course I have to have patience with myself also, because other people can, and that's nice. But if I don't have patience with myself, um, it's not going to help me. So
That's a great
keeping
answer.
that in mind.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I
Thank
wanted to
you.
highlight like three things that you said, like three important things. Number one is that being self-aware
Mm-hmm.
is a therapist's dream. For me, if a kid is self-aware, I'll be so happy. I kick them out as
Yeah.
ASAP, right? Because then they can be their own therapist, like yourself. When
Mm-hmm.
they need to use like certain techniques at certain times, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the second thing I want to highlight is that for the I'm getting all tied up. So for the uninitiated,
That's
what
cool.
a what a what an easy onset is basically a stuttering technique, right?
Mm.
A technique we use
It
with
is.
stuttering to basically de-stress yourself. What that really is, right? Not to go on to
Mm.
the word super hard
Yeah.
on the get go, so that you don't screw up the whole word from the beginning. So
Mm.
we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And third thing I want to talk about was that I forgot already, but so that's why I need to write things down too, right? Yeah. So
It's cool.
let me think about what I was saying, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right. Let's hop on later on. Okay.
It's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. Cool. So you were talking about like the techniques, right? Easy onset is one of them. You start off with like an easy sound.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, what we tell you to do is like with an airy sound, like an H, right? Or an S, something like that. So you have to start soft and then you go into the word. So what other
Mm-hmm.
techniques have you encountered that has been very, very helpful for yourself?
So it is. I have also used a bunch of hand gestures as well. It's actually when I try to get out an S word, I'll actually do like this.
Yeah.
So like let's think of an S word or an S blend. Um, School.
Yeah.
It's hard to do like this because hand gestures just help me and stuff, and I used to actually do like this, and I used to pronounce each syllable. So I would go like syllable, and I like syllable. So I've kind of been using hand gestures more. I just find that they help. Um, as I've also used tapping, but I don't use tapping as much now. I did as a kid. I would tap nonstop, but it really helped. So
Yeah.
that's why I would tap my foot or my fingers. But I feel like I found out that hand gestures help me more. So I kind of picked on to that. Um, it is something else that has helped me too in the past and stuff is also an app on my phone too that I've talked about some because I actually used to talk very, very quiet to the point where it was like a whisper. Um, so I actually found this app. I can actually pull it up right quickly
Yeah. Definitely.
because 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 I just needed to be self-aware of how loud I was talking,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure. So once I actually went into speech, we actually began using like a mic and a laptop, and we would record myself talking and then see how loud I talked. But this app has made things a lot easy, easy, easier. Apraxia things, um, because I'm able to have it from my phone and stuff. I'm trying to find it now. Um, let's see. Has so many things. Well, I have actually like 3 apps of them, so I can pull up one. But it basically tells you how loud you're talking. The dB sound is right here. So like right now I'm talking actually at 81, which is where I want to be. I want to be at least 65 is my goal. So 65 and above is an A in my book. So just trying to make sure that I'm also talking loud enough, because if I'm not, then it's easier for my words to kind of get lost and stuff, and me kind of like not being consistent with my talking, and kind of having more like pauses and stuff. So just also making sure I'm projecting my voice enough.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool because um, we use, actually just me and my student, right? We use similar techniques too, especially for the hand gestures.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I do remember what I wanted to highlight before. So when you said that you couldn't get a word out, what happens to a lot of
Mm.
children with apraxia is that they find an easier word to say. So they have a whole
Exactly.
repertoire,
Mm.
yeah, a whole repertoire in their minds about what words to say. So they, you just keep on hearing them, they keep on saying the same things over and over again. They use the same word,
Mm.
even if it's not like it's a stretch to use it at that situation. And then only like the therapist or the mom will pick it up. It's like, hey man,
Mm.
stop doing that. Try your best to say what you want to say. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the gestures work very well. Just wanted to
Mm.
highlight that why we use a gesture for like a sound or a sound or whatever continuous sound is because it's a continuous sound. We use it to like to draw a line, right? Make our
Mm-hmm.
minds think that okay, it goes longer than it should, right? And these things, if you're watching this as a parent, you need to understand these prompts, these cues, these gestures. You have to build it. It doesn't just work, right? It needs to pair with your speech, and then when you use it, it will become
Yeah.
sort of help to you. Yeah. And
Mm.
just to say a little bit more, the tapping is very good. It's more of a stuttering skill again, a stuttering kind of technique. Just
Mm.
because you go on beat and then you don't screw things up. It's much
Mm.
more natural when you're speaking in Chinese because we go by syllables. Right? But in
Mm.
English, it's a stress time speech, meaning there's ups and downs, and you don't always go like in the same beat, right? So it becomes what the problem is about it is that it becomes a little robotic, and this is something you have to overcome,
It
right?
does.
Yeah. So this
All
is,
right.
and also for Jordan, he used to have a volume problem. This is also a self-awareness thing. He didn't have that awareness, right? You didn't have it, so you found something external to help you build that awareness, which we all need
Mm-hmm.
as people. So now
Yeah. For
yeah,
sure.
he internalizes that feeling from like information from a
Mm.
phone. Now he knows, right? So sorry to add so much stuff to it, so that parents know
It's
what's going
cool.
on,
Yeah. Of course.
right? And these things
Mm.
we all need to use, right? For instance, for me, if you use a Fitbit, you're already using this kind of stuff. You already know, like, oh, today I walked 1,000 steps, I feel it, right? Then you don't need to see the Fitbit anymore because you know that you're at that level already, right? So all these things,
Right.
Jordan, that you are using, right? It's about prosody, right? And
Mm.
what is prosody? Just let me define it real quickly. It's all the ups and downs, the volume,
Of course.
um, all the things that you say and like in speech that is not related to the sounds, right? The toning, the tone, um,
Mm-hmm.
the tonation, the stress, the volume, the speed. All these are to do with prosody, right? So I see that Jordan, you have a lot of ways to help you out in terms of that, in terms of this, right? That's
Yeah.
excellent. So did you have
Thank you.
ever problems with like dealing with stress in English, like um, getting the stress correct? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, like let's say like making sure um that you rise at the end of a question, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had too, because I wouldn't rise and it wouldn't sound like I was trying to ask a question. It sounded more like I was saying like a statement. So I had to become self-aware of that, and also keep on trying with that, um, which was hard because I was like, I, I'm not used to this because I was so monotone at one point where it was like I didn't rise or didn't have very much like tone in my voice and such. So I actually did have to learn as well how to put emotion into my voice, which has also helped since I've begun to film as well because I want to make sure that people know that I'm happy and stuff. So I've actually learned through that to how to do that because I keep on practicing and practicing and then I get used to it. So
Yeah, that's being self-aware too, because you don't know that you're being monotone, right? Until you see yourself on camera.
hmm
You're like, hey man, I didn't sound that happy at all.
yeah,
That actually
kind of
happened to me
sounded
too.
mad.
Yeah,
I want that.
yeah. So we have some time left, around like 5 to 10. If you could stay on for a little longer, that'd be excellent, because I've got quite a few questions I want to ask you. So I've got two questions from parents who are your followers, and they actually told me to like talk to you. So
Oh,
kudos to them. So one of the questions that she asked was, when you're emotional or anxious, how do you get yourself to express yourself? And the reason behind why he's asking this is because once that kid is anxious, he's like a stone statue. He can't talk. I was talking about the kid who just laughs when I talk to him. It's that one. So how do you get yourself to like open up and de-stress yourself?
it's a lot of self-talk with my own self inside of my own mind and stuff. So it's about telling myself to make sure that I'm breathing right and I'm taking breaths. And it's also making sure during this time that I'm not being judgmental about my talking. So also trying to view my speech as something more objective. So um, I'm not getting wrapped up in the emotions behind it. I'm being more logical at that point. It's more about, if I take breaths and I take my time, I'm going to be able to say what I want to say. Just be patient with myself. Take time. Then maybe hearing myself talk and then being like, oh, well, I feel like I don't sound that well. I'll kind of push that thought aside and I'll just be like, okay, this is how my voice sounds. And that's it. And we kind of leave it at that. So it's not getting wrapped up into that not feeding into that emotional part that's playing out. Just trying to um, more logically, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. So it really comes down to like what you tell yourself, right? What's that
Hmm.
self-talk going on inside your mind? So that's a really good advice.
Thank
But
you.
at the same time, we have to, as a parent, as a therapist, I feel like there's a lot to learn from this. It means that it's just not the techniques, it's not the speech. Because even for athletes, they cannot perform the same way every day. You catch someone on a
Right.
bad day, they're not going to do as well as they do. So that's why sports psychology is such a big thing nowadays, right? And I feel like this is something we have to
Yeah.
think about if we're coaching a kid to talk. So, um, to the parent who requested this question, who's watching it right now, um, yeah, this is what we have to build for your child right now. The positive self-talk, being logical instead of
Mhm.
emotional when stuff hits the fan, right? These are the things that we need to be careful about. Okay, and another parent, um, she asked, was there a turning point, like a sudden improvement in your overall speech abilities? If yes, what do you think the reasons are?
So I actually made a lot of improve improvements in my third grade year. I do think it's because I just had a very good SLP that really worked with me and essentially knew what I needed and such. And it's also, I think part of it also was the year prior, I had a different SLP because I had new SLPs like every single year I went through SLPs. But my SLP in my second grade year told me that that, well, she told me and my mom that I would never be able to talk on my own and we should just accept that. And during that time, when I heard this, I thought like, no, like I'm gonna prove you actually wrong, is what I thought when I was young. Um, so I felt like I got more motivational as well, which really played part, and I felt like my SLP during this time was also very positive and was very encouraging as well. I was also learning to like read and write during this year. So I felt like that also gave me a lot of self-confidence as well, because I was learning how to read, and when I learned how to read, I was like so happy and so excited to read. Um, so I just felt like a lot of good things happened during that year. So
Let's see, that's great. Yeah, this question is because the parent is looking for that next breakthrough. Because
yeah.
our speech therapy has been steady. We've finally, just to share with you, we finally got those lens done. The L sounds. We finally finished that.
Mm.
She's super happy. But we're looking for that next breakthrough. And why we say that is because people, we improve in stepwise fashions, right? We suddenly have like
Yeah,
the boom, and then we have inspiration. So I guess the biggest takeaway for me, which I want to highlight, is very important, is that to surround yourself with people who are positive and act as if it's going to
hmm,
happen, right? That's what I always try to do, at least.
of course.
Yeah, and be
Yeah.
careful when you hear Jordan say, when you when you said that that SLP told you, hey, you're not going to talk anymore um, by yourself, right? You're not going to be able to do it yourself. That kind of motivation
Mm.
might backfire for your child, so you have to. It depends on your
It
personality.
might.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, that could have really hurt a kid and could have discouraged them. But I kind of had this different atti- attitude about myself where if I got something on my mind and such that I was going to do, I am very determined to do it no matter what I have to do. But not every kid's like that. Um, so it is very important that that wasn't a good thing that was actually said, but it did kind of make me mad. And I just was like, no, I'm going to prove you wrong and talk. And yeah.
If that SLP was like seeing you right now, I mean, she or he would say, "Damn, I was wrong."
I know.
Uh,
Like, dang, okay, now he's really talking, huh?
he's really talking. Now we're talking, right? So I've got like two more questions, if you don't mind, real quick.
Yeah,
So,
of course. That's okay.
um, do you get really tired after talking for a long time? Like, for instance, with me right now, if you engage in a conversation for an extended period of time, because I have a student who, if I talk for a whole hour, she would fall asleep the
Oh my
instant I would
goodness.
get off Zoom. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, did you have that problem, and how do you refresh yourself?
Yeah, so it's after yeah, so actually mental exhaustion, kind of summarize mental exhaustion. It kind of feels like honestly your brain is physically tired and it feels drained. It can kind of feel dull. So it's what I do to personally help me is that I make sure that I've drank enough water, which also helps my throat. If my throat gets tense, I try to drink enough water and stuff. And as I'll also eat as well because, of course, food gives your brain energy. All done. Uh, is what I do as well is that I give myself a break and do something that I enjoy that is relaxing to me. And honestly, that's just being on my phone and chilling, not really, doing much. Just taking a break and kind of distracting myself. And then it will start to kind of soothe. Um, so, yeah, those are kind of things that I've learned how to pick up on
Cool.
that
So,
have helped.
okay, so it's a real thing that that every time a long time you do feel drained, right? I get
Hmm.
that. Um, those are all good suggestions to do stuff that's other than talking, right? And just recharge yourself by chilling.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So, this is the last question I want to ask you about. Is that a lot of AOS children or people, they love to use singing as a way to express themselves, and it's also beneficial for the speech ability in general. So, have you? Sorry, I'm stuttering now. So, have you ever done any like singing practices and stuff? Um, and has it helped you at all?
So, it's I actually did take voice lessons when I was 10 and 11. I didn't do them for the Apraxia itself. I actually just wanted to take them at that age. I did find that singing was a whole lot more easy for me. I actually didn't have any issues at all, um, which I think is why I kind of wanted to at wanted to at that age because I was having so much trouble talking to other people that doing this was a different way to express express myself. Um, so yeah, it was a whole lot more easy.
Okay, that's cool. Which is generally a more, this is the last question I wanted to ask you, right? So I want to ask this because a lot of children are
Mm,
using it as a way to help them out in terms of speech. And there's a whole load of reasons why, like saying is easier than talking. Like obviously it's a routine. Obviously there's a structure to it, and
mm,
there's like help and guides along the way. Because you sometimes you sing along with someone, that's much easier. As with a lot of children, when they have AOS, they want to start speaking with you. They want to copy you, right? Which is one of the hallmarks apparently for apraxia of speech. So yeah, that's one of those
yeah,
things that we try to look for. So yeah, if you are a parent and you want your child to like try this out, this is totally something I encourage and suggest it. And as Jordan said, hey, it's really cool. It's much easier than talking to some extent, right? So um, before we go
yeah, it is.
today, I just really wanted to say
Mm,
that Jordan, I really appreciate your time. I know that you're super busy with your
thank you.
with everything that's going on right now. I really appreciate that you're sharing your thoughts and emotions, tips, and strategies that you have right here. Um, is there anything you want to leave to the audience from my side or your side, especially those parents who are listening?
It's I would probably leave off with that I'm sure that parents have tons of questions and such, and I feel like parents can also be so unsure about themselves and if they're doing enough, if they got their child help sooner, what would it be like right now? I feel like parents can really doubt themselves, but I would like to encourage parents to really self to really stop with the self-doubt and know that you are doing what you need for your child as long as they're enrolled in speech therapy and you're getting them the appropriate help that they need, that you're doing enough, and it's also not in your control as well, because I feel like so many parents will try to go to these extremes to help their kids, and they mean they mean so well, but they can really burn themselves out, and they can try to go here and there, and they can just get exhausted. So just know that you're doing the right thing if you're getting your kid help. And it's also, it's not like an easy fix. It's not fixed. It takes time, it takes effort, but to also just really um, celebrate every single milestone that your kid has, because it's not a competition or anything. It's just about having your child be able to express themselves and hopefully one day be able to talk on their own.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. That was that pretty much sums up, how I feel as well. And obviously, I'm not a
hmm
parent, so for me,
yeah.
I'd say like just before, just let me rant a little bit before we get off this call. I totally agree with Jordan here. You say it very, very well. It's not a competition. Parents burn themselves out and the kids. And really, the key thing to take away from this interview here is that it's not a fix, right? It's not a fix. The key word there's no magical fix. It's going to be a long fight, and it's about
No,
coping as well. Teaching your child how to cope.
it is.
Exactly. So how Jordan, how you went through all these, like when you're becoming more of an adult, you still had to think about how to be more self-aware with your volume, how to learn how to use your gestures and try to fade it away and not let people see your gestures. I can see that is happening with you. These are all coping mechanisms. You're trying to decrease the number of help you're giving yourself in order to speak yourself, right? So really is to find a strategy that will help your child the most and stick with it until it works, and then try to hone it down, right? So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for for this lovely interview.
Yeah.
Sorry for the internet and the audio
Thank
quality.
you.
Yeah. So if you want
That's okay.
yeah, it's cool, right?
Zoom is
Alright. So just a parting thing, if you want to find Jordan, you can find him on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. His handle for Instagram is Jordan Apraxia again. His Facebook, where he probably has more audience there, it's called Fighting for My Voice, My Life with Verbal Apraxia. And on YouTube, it's Jordan Christian. All the stuff will be in the description box below. Go check him out because he has a lot of great content out there. It will help you to understand more about your child. And if you're a professional like myself, it will shed some good light that at least we're doing something and learn more about how to do it better. All right. So thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it. All right, you too. Bye.